Previously on Anything Goes.
Most people are. It was gross.
Just downtown. I know exactly where you are.
Yeah, it was like, ugh.
Oh, yeah. But Winnipeg is a good town. Any town that's like a kind of a party rock and roll town, I'm sure that show would do. Edmonton, have you done Edmonton with Joe then?
Done Edmonton.
Yeah, and that must have been a good show.
There's some white trash crazy motherfuckers.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, yo,
Yeah, she's from there.
Whoa.
She's
She's an
Edmonton
girl.
Listen, it's garbage blanc. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this idea that Canada was just like one little region. And now I realize you guys are all as different. Like BC is completely different than Toronto.
That's really funny. I have to say something because I saw you at the Best of the Fest on Saturday at Absolute Comedy, and you did this joke about Edmonton being like a white trash city, and then you go local reference, and I was like, except for Edmonton is probably about a 3-day drive from here.
Oh, right.
A 3-day drive on meth or something like that.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
I'm in Vegas, Buffalo, local reference
people.
Yeah, exactly. Local to this whole huge country. That's just as wide as our country.
Have you been to Vancouver then?
And now, let's get to a new exciting show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready for some laughs? Are you?
Don't touch that dial. It was molested and it brings back horrible memories. This is Anything Goes with Darren Frost.
How the fuck am I funny?
Dave Martin.
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
And Kathleen McGee.
And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
Can you dig it?
There we go.
Oh my god, that was long. Hold on, I gotta turn it down.
Why did I expect you to? I don't know why I keep expecting Kathleen you to be in some like crown that you're now like Lady Queen Mary or something like that.
Because someone married me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying that's insane. I'm just saying
like Freddie Mercury Queen or like
I thought that no, that you would still be waving the like look at me, I got married flag.
Look at me. So are you still last name McGee or did you take Adam's last name?
I mean, that's so much paperwork to change it, right? So I think right now I'm not going to change it. I'm not changing my stage name for sure.
Well, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you've worked hard to keep that name what it is. So why would you change it? Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't changed it to Kathleen Lampman legally yet, but I have all the paperwork in my car, but I haven't done it.
But what's the real benefit? What's the benefit now, Kathleen? Because I mean, my wife did not take my name.
Well, can you blame her? I don't
think there is a benefit to it. I think it's just like an old-fashioned, like, oh, you are now this man's property.
Yes, yes, I like where that's going. Okay.
But I don't Adam doesn't care. His family doesn't care. But,
right.
He doesn't care?
Yeah, I told him if you want to, he can change his name to McGee because it's a good name.
Yeah.
I think every guy doesn't care up until the point you decide not to do it. And then he slightly cares, but I don't know about that.
Not this guy.
No,
No,
she kept her name or not?
She kept her last name as Pigeon, and and to be honest, I think it's a good thing for people that are in show business that their significant other does not have their last name.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
they can keep it separate. Everything is separate. Yeah. They're never gonna find him if you don't want them to find him. And obviously. My history has been a little crazier in terms of being attacked and all that, so I like to have kept it separate. But also, the only thing that happens is when you have kids, then you have to figure out what name are they going to take, and then that's a different conversation.
Yeah, and Eugene and Dottie are both McGee's, so
right.
I'm sure that's how they identify as well. So
yeah. No, I don't think there is a benefit to changing. It's just and plus you have to pay to get your license changed. You have to pay for everything. Like it's just like a cash grab.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a cash grab. I mean, who's grabbing that cash? The government or
the government?
Yeah.
The government?
Who else?
Well, I mean,
don't pay to the guy across the street. Hey Ted, here's your money because I'm getting married.
The cash I'm gonna get. Ooh.
Yeah.
So, do you want to give us a rundown of how your wedding was?
It was really fun. It got like about a week and a half before, I kind of like woke up in a panic, and then I was like, I have to cancel everything because I was like, everything was getting really scary in Alberta, and
this was like the day that they actually announced everything, but this was the morning, so I don't know if I'm psychic, but I just had a small panic attack, and then I called Adam in tears. I called my bridesmaids in tears, and as soon as I got the cry out, I was okay. And then we just decided to cancel our venue because it was going to be like less of what I wanted it to be, and like I wasn't going to spend all that extra money on a venue and not get to like have the wedding I wanted to have. So
yeah, right, of course, yeah.
So
I was wondering what the crying quota was for your wedding. Was it 3?
I only cried that one day. That one day when it was just out of frustration, because it's just like we've had to change it so many times.
Yeah.
And like none of Adam's family could come, and it was just like such a pain, and like the whole thing was terrible. Like I'm not a bridezilla at all. Actually, I had like people saying that I was actually being too relaxed about it, because it's kind of annoying that I had nothing planned. I had like no.
Where's Adam's family from, Kathleen? Sorry to interrupt, but where are they from?
They're from Langley, BC, so it's just outside of Vancouver. And so most of his family's from there, and then he's got a couple of relatives in like Kelowna and stuff.
Okay.
But pretty much everyone's in BC, and it was just like traveling wasn't a thing. Like it just was going to be too much of a. So his parents were there, but that was the only one from his family. And then so we switched it. We were going to do it in my brother's backyard, but then my aunt that has this like huge backyard offered her backyard. And in a week we like threw everything together, and it was perfect. Like the day was perfect. It was still warm outside. It was raining a little bit, but just a little bit. And then I had planned to have this like crazy inflatable guy pop up when we kissed. So I rented one of those things, and I was getting ready at the hotel, and I got this like notification on our Ring doorbell, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy at our house? And I wasn't even going to answer it, but I answered it, and it was the wacky inflatable guy. It wasn't the straw guy, but it was the guy
who puts it up. Yeah.
And he was at our house, not at the venue. So then I was like, oh no, it's going to get all fucked up. So when I was walking down the aisle, I was expecting to see this thing at the end of the aisle, because that's where I wanted it to be, and I didn't see it. So I was a little disappointed. I'm like, I guess it just didn't work out. Whatever, it's not a big deal. And then, so then when we kissed, and it popped up, and it was over to the side, because that's where they had to set it up. So everyone was like, you were so surprised. Who planned that? I'm like, I planned that, but they put it in a different place. So I was like, oh my God, it's here.
So it looked like he was photobombing you?
Yeah.
Well, he's just off to the side. Like he was sort of like, and like Sean the Convert was there, and he said it was kind of funny to watch like everybody turn into a 5-year-old child. As soon as that thing popped up, everyone was like, ah! But it was like super fun, and it was like very relaxed, and people were like blackout drunk by about 1:30 in the afternoon, because we started at 11.
Smart.
And then like we had mimosas in the morning, and then like Lisa Baker was there, and she was like hilarious, wasted, and who else was it? What? There weren't a lot of comics. It was like Sean, Lisa, but I had to keep it like really small.
Yeah.
But everybody had like so much fun, and literally the wedding was over by 11 p.m. because it was my aunt's backyard.
Right.
And I was just like, I don't want anyone to get in trouble, but everybody had like burnt out by that point, because people were like, it was like 3 p.m. and everyone was just like out of control drunk for a while.
All right. So
there were no like big.
So knowing how many drunk people were there, I'm relieved to know that it wasn't necessary for me to show up and be that element at his wedding of knocking shit over or setting stuff on fire.
Yeah.
Or being.
You would have fit right in. Well, you would have totally fit right in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't get out to a lot of weddings, but I'm glad yours went well and successful. Were there any scandals? Was anyone outrageously like tipsy?
I don't think because it was a Kathleen McGee event. Like everybody was like outrageously tipsy, but nobody was over the top. I'm trying to think if there was anything crazy, but no, not really. We just like, it was a really, really fun day, and I had a piñata that was the shape of a COVID molecule, and we filled it with chocolate bars and booze bottles. So I forgot to put it out till like the end of the night. Like I'm not a wedding planner. Like I don't know I didn't know what I was doing. So kind of just like, I'm lucky that I have a lot of type A personalities. Like my sister-in-law helped a lot, and she's very type A, and my cousin helped. So they were like running the whole event for me, and I'm just like, I don't care, do whatever you want. And then we had the girl that I get my edibles from, she made me a weeding cake, like a weed wedding cake.
Yes.
Right.
So it was like 1,300 milligrams, I think. And I posted it on Reddit, and then High Times posted it on their social media.
So obviously I don't know anything about that. If you ate the cake, would you
You'd get
feel
high.
high?
Oh yeah.
Well,
But it depends on how much you ate. Like
That's what I mean.
girl
Like
that
just
made
a
it.
normal slice would be enough for you to really feel the effects.
Oh yeah, especially
Yeah.
if you never eat it. Yeah, you
Right.
would definitely.
Okay.
But nobody was like totally over the top, like seeing crazy things. Like
Right.
even my aunt, whose like yard it was, kept some for later. She's so cute. She's like, "Want some for later?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?"
But I can see a lot of people passing out though. Was nobody passed out after their injection?
Nobody passed out. Nobody puked everywhere. Nobody got in a fist fight. Like
Wow, are you
everyone just
sure
had a
this happened in
really-
Alberta? What the
Yeah.
fuck?
I know, right? Everyone just
Wow.
had a really, really good time, and I think because we were like all done by 11 p.m. But like, it was a good time. It was
To
a really
me,
good
any
time.
wedding that is like what you did is probably perfect in terms of the time, because I've never been to a wedding that after 11 o'clock it was really worth staying there, because after 11 o'clock things got really fucking bad at a
Yeah.
lot of weddings I've been to, like pukey bad, passing out bad, those kind of things Dave's talking about. And by having it at those times, if you're so fucked up and it's 4 o'clock, you know I got to get out of here. You'll get out of there. But if it's 11
Yeah.
o'clock, you might be able to convince yourself I'll stay till 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to a few where they'll put out like a midnight buffet of like waffles and breakfasts and shit
Yeah.
like that, or some sort of like food category that has never been at this wedding before. They'll do that at like midnight to keep people around. But yeah,
Right.
at a certain point, you're sort of like, well, what else? What am I contributing to this event anymore, other than the possibility of being an asshole later? But yeah, was it very churchy? Were there?
Oh no, it was all in the backyard. No.
Yeah, they had an
no
inflatable
over-
church. The kids.
Yeah.
It was a bouncy castle, Dave.
Yeah, the inflatable choir boys that
Yeah.
were magnet to inflatable priests that showed up
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, zero mention of any religion. No, we did. I'm not churchy at all. So
Well,
yeah, no.
No, I figured that, but sometimes people will put up with that.
Yeah, because
if
of
it's
parents
someone
and
else's
other.
parent
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Oh yeah.
something like that.
No,
Yeah.
neither side was forcing us to do anything
Yeah.
like that. The best part, we did our own vows, but we both forgot to write them because we are major procrastinators. So we
Right.
both winged it. And Adams was so funny because he literally said, "What I can commit to you today." I was like, "I'm not a car. I'm not a used
Yeah, I was gonna
car
say, was he working
manufacturer."
fucking Leon's?
Yeah.
What the fuck? You
I
buying a
was
couch?
so-
I'm
it
putting a
was
down
so
payment right
funny.
now.
Oh my god, it was so funny. Yeah, and then like, oh god, the speeches were hilarious because everybody was wasted by that. Like Adam was crazy drunk, and my maid of honor was drunk, and she was hilarious. And then my brother went up and told us like he was pretty tipsy, but he like went very emotional and like said these sweet things to Adam, and then everybody was like crying, and my friend was calling my brother an emotional terrorist.
Nice.
Everybody was like, "Oh my god."
Nice.
But yeah, it was seriously the perfect day, and we're still supposed to be having another party next summer. It's because we have paid for that venue, but we just wanted to, because my grandma is here and she's like 94, so she would
Right.
never be able to go. So that's kind of why we had the wedding that we just had.
Right.
But I think now we're just gonna have a big party at that venue next summer, and not like have a, like we're not having another ceremony, or maybe we'll have a fake weird ceremony where Dave runs in and punches out Adam or something.
Why would I do that? Why would it be like?
Just for fun, just for the drama.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we'll coordinate that. We'll choreograph
theater,
that. I don't
dinner
want it to
theater.
be. I want him to be in on the joke as well, if that's going to
Oh,
happen.
of course. Yeah. Of
Now
course.
that must have been the longest stretch of time that you haven't felt like a comedian, because your
What do you
mind
mean?
is so like when I got married, right? Up at that point, obviously there wasn't a pandemic and there was comedy all
Yeah.
the time, but that was like the longest stretch of time I actually didn't physically think about comedy, because it was all about planning the last stages of the wedding,
Yeah.
do the wedding, go on the honeymoon, relationship, and then all of a sudden, okay, now I'm back out of it. I'm thinking about comedy again. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of a different switch for comics to not think comedy all the time, whether we're
Yeah.
doing it or not.
But were there any moments at your wedding, Darren, where you could sort of like, where now you look back, or were there any sort of scandals or anything, major embarrassments at your wedding that now I guess you can kind of look back on and laugh about? But were there any at the time where you're sort of like, I can't believe why the fuck did you do that? Or
there's a lot of shit that happened at my wedding, which I cannot even say on this show.
Why not? Why can't you say it?
Because when we're done this episode, I can tell you guys some crazy shit. But yeah, in the for the sake of relationships, I can't say anything right now.
Oh, okay. Well, I always say that the more vague you make it, the more of a leap our imaginations will take.
You will not leap far enough, trust me.
Oh, I don't know about that. But I'll take your word for it. But
all right. So we, while you were getting married, me and Dave did a couple episodes with some from some comedians in the past. Nice. And we interviewed Marla Lukoski and Dave.
And who else?
Lisa Gay Tremblay. I was just seeing if Dave remembered.
Okay, I thought I was supposed to say something about the Marla Lukoski one that I was unaware of. But and Lisa Gay Tremblay that we spoke to as well.
So there were two comics from the mid '80s to late '80s that really kind of laid a lot of groundwork for comedy back then, and so we wanted to have that kind of perspective. And then we had lunch with Bobby Mair yesterday.
What? Is he back in Canada?
He was back in Canada just for a couple weeks. He just to see family. He didn't do any comedy, so we just arranged to have lunch with him and kind of shoot the shit with him and talk to him because he's, I don't know if you know, but he's on the show Killer Camp. Do you know what the show, Kathleen?
No.
It's a CW show. It's sort of like a murder mystery, but they're all at camp, and each contestant is getting murdered slowly, like one by one. And I guess
it's like Love Island, hot people,
but it's Survivor as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, it's Survivor-ish. But each week, someone instead of just gets voted off, they get killed in like almost like a Friday the 13th way. That's the premise. And Bobby's the host, so it's into the second season. So
is it a UK show?
It started out as a UK show and it got picked up in America on the CW network.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've never heard. I gotta look into that. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if someone said, oh, here's a channel and you could just watch them streaming, I would probably watch. But, there's so much out there. And it's sort of like, I think that the more you have to search for something, the less appealing it is to me. I just want to press one button and here it is,
Yeah, okay. Dave.
It's just like, I'd like to watch that Killer Camp, but then I have to go to like CW on demand and then watch.
There isn't a clear way in Canada to do it. I know it's kind of a bit of a problem to watch it.
But I
can see the trailer.
Yeah, I asked Bobby if he was doing any gigs, and I don't know if it's a Canadian thing but it's a very uncomedian thing of him. He just said I'd feel very bad, sort of just swooping into the country, once a year, and then doing a bunch of weekends at a club and taking work away from other comics. But I'm like, every comic does that. Everyone does that.
Touring.
Sort of like, why would you feel worried about that? That's just something that we do. Of like, I'm not saying that that's something that we do of like, oh, well, I'm going to take work away, but that's just coming in because
to try to pay for the ability to see your family. We take gigs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's one of the benefits of moving away too. Is like you get to go back to the other cities and you'll get to do gigs there.
Right, but, you feel more appreciated, sure.
And the other news is Bobby's having a baby.
Oh my God, he's having a baby himself.
He's having a baby. Yep.
Oh my God,
the test tube worked. Yep.
Oh my God.
But was it so? Harriet, Bobby's wife, is like 8 months pregnant or something, or?
Well, the baby's due in December, Dave. So it's like 10 months.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know all the numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not a numbers guy, but I'm just saying it's like. But he was saying his wife's a stand-up too, and she's still doing shows up until the point where she just can't do shows anymore. And And Bobby was very clear on the fact that like she's not going to take any time off, and it's sort of like, no, I want to get back out of. But I can also see someone saying like, oh, I want to get back on stage just to get away from the baby. But I also remind everybody about your joke about how you want to have a baby just so you can quit stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Doug Stanhope, and you're listening to Darren Frost and Friends on Anything Goes XM Radio.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
then
me
blame that kid for the rest of your life.
right. That makes me want to
Exactly.
have a baby. Oh my God. Can I have a baby just so I can say that's my reason for quitting? So,
Well, yeah, well, I just feel like that's the best way to do it without people feeling like you've given up on your dream. Like, oh,
Yes.
well, she wanted to be a mother and that's so important. So, but I've never wanted to be a mother, so people would see right through it.
well, yeah. Other
But,
than the
but
mom that
I
has
was
to
talking
take.
about this with, I was in Fort McMurray with Sean the Comber this weekend. We were talking about like babies
Ooh,
and
name
women
dropper,
comics.
Fort McMurray.
Oh, I
Wow.
know. Oh God,
Wow.
wait. Something actually happened there that's never happened to me in my comedy career, and I'll tell you in a second.
You did
yeah, we were
well?
talking about no, actually no. And that's rude. But no, we were talking about women, and most of the women that I know that have had babies, I never hear from them again. Even though they're like,
they don't re-enter comedy is what you're saying. They have a baby and that's it. Yeah.
unless they're super established, like Bonnie McFarlane did it, Amy Schumer can do it, but they're established. But like,
Catherine Ryan.
yeah, that's like one thing. But most girls that they just kind of can't do it anymore. Because like, I mean, as much as you want to say, oh yeah, I'm going to keep working, keep touring, it can't be easy to be a woman touring. You can't. First of all, people are going to judge you if you leave your baby. Second of all, they're going to judge you if you bring your baby. So, and not even just like judging, like that's a lot of work. I bring my dogs on the road and it's exhausting. Like I can't imagine like having a human baby. So it's like, that's why I know most of the female comics I know that are still really doing it. None of them have ever had children.
Yeah,
well, I mean, comedy
Lisa Gay Tremblay.
Lisa,
did you say Lisa Gay Tremblay just had did she have a kid or adopt a kid?
No, she has children.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
But she said a lot of them. I think a lot of them sort of confessed to being like, oh, well, we'll do the big important shows, but as far as like doing the sort of like the one-nighters, they'll maybe skip that once.
Yeah, but you need to do those shows to continue to keep your skills up so that you can do the big shows.
Also, just financially, that's talking about what Kathleen said. That's established. That's someone who's established. If you're not established, you can't have this, well, I'll just do this odd weekend here and there. That won't happen. You'll just fall through the cracks. You'll be forgotten unless you're hustling. I know what it was like for me to travel and tour with my wife and the kids when they were young, and it wasn't easy. And I wasn't the woman in the relationship, right? So it was a lot easier for me to just go, I'm just going to go to this gig for, 3 hours, leave you in the hotel room, so I couldn't imagine what it would be like for a mother in this first couple of years. I realized why they don't get back into it. It's just not that easy.
And people should be like, well, don't worry what other people think. I'm like, well, people are going to accuse you of being a bad parent because you're bringing your kid on the road or leaving them at home. So it's kind of like a no-win situation for women even now. Like
it's still a double standard. It's still okay for the father to go out on the road and leave the wife. But if the wife went out on the road and left the kid with the dad, they'd still be like, there'd still be that kind of, really? Well, wow, okay, what kind of mother?
Well, what does that say about dads? Of just like, really, you're leaving the baby with its father? Are you
not
crazy?
dads? I mean, other women. Other women would say that to women. I would think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Other women are from my friends that have kids. Other women are mean about childcare and child raising.
And how you raise them and make sure you're doing it right, and you're very judgy.
Either you're breastfeeding them or you're not breastfeeding, and how dare you? And it's just nobody, and everybody has that's another thing I've heard it from all my friends that have kids. Everyone has an opinion on how you should raise your kids, whether it's your parents, your in-laws, your siblings, and so you're constantly having people tell you what to do. None of this stuff has ever appealed.
Right. Do you ever think that some of those women are reacting to the fact that if like someone has a baby and they're still living their dream and then they're going on with their like career and life, is there any sort of deep-rooted jealousy of like, well, I had to put my life on hold and when I had a baby, and
I'm sure that plays into it,
and everything is still going fine with you. I think there's some sort of deep-rooted sort of like, well, why does she get to do this and I have to do this? And
but that's like everything. That's like even in comedy, when you hear about a comic that gets something very quickly and another comic goes, well, he didn't put a time in or she didn't put her time in. It's like, no, they figured out a way to do it faster than I did. So be it, but
and they're
everyone, of course. No different, really.
Oh.
Yeah, people have opinions, David.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tell us your Fort McMurray story.
So first night was a terrible show just because the crowd talked through the whole thing. I've never ever just plowed through my act. Like I didn't even stop for laughs. I just kept going, and then until I was done, and it was demoralizing. And I was like, well, comedy is a piece of shit.
And this was a two-hander. Sorry to interrupt. So you had to do 45 each, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
45 each. And so Sean went up first on Friday, and they didn't. And they weren't into him. So I was like, okay, well maybe they'll like mine, and then they didn't. So we were like, oh, they hate both of us. Right. But then Saturday we went out. We took my dogs to the dog park, and we went to a comic from Fort McMurray. We went to his house, and like I had one beer, and I literally forgot to eat all day, which I often do. Like if I'm doing stuff, I forget to eat. And I came back, and I was like, well, I could go eat something or I could have a nap, but I'm really tired, so I'm gonna have a nap. And I did a nap, and I woke up about half an hour before the show, and I was like, I feel like shit. What the fuck is going on? I feel like really weird. My cheeks were like red. Like I was a little worried about COVID-y kind of stuff, but it wasn't at all like those kind of things. I just felt like I was exhausted, and my stomach hurt. And so they go to the show, and I'm going up first this time, and I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I just want to get this over with. And I get up on stage, and the comic who we went to go hang out with that afternoon, he kind of did a quasi host of it. Like he kind of brought us up and everything.
Right.
And I'm on stage, and I'm starting to feel like not good, like nauseous, like not good at all. And I'm like, but usually I can just power through anything. Like once I had to pee so bad on stage, but I just powered through, right? And I've never ever missed a show because I was sick or anything. And then about 15 minutes into my set, I was just like getting this hot and cold feeling, and I was like, I'm gonna vomit, I'm gonna puke. And so I just said into the microphone, I was like, Ty, could you please come back on stage because I need to leave, I'm not feeling well. And he just comes, he's like, oh, okay. And he comes on stage, and I go and I like puke in the bathroom, and I put my phone on the toilet on the top, and then after I was done puking, I looked, and I'd been recording it the whole time.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
That's what a comic does.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You almost Horowitz the situation. You almost
no.
Horowitz the thing.
That's my nightmare, is to do something like that on stage. But yeah, so then I got like puked, and then I said I can go back up, and she's like, if you're sick, I just would rather just go back to your room, and like COVID stuff and everything. I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. Yeah. But that's the first time I've ever had. I was 15 minutes into a 45-minute set, and I had to leave, and it was like so close to me doing it on stage, because I was just trying so hard to just push through and power through, because I'm like, I'm not gonna do this on stage. But then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this on stage if I don't leave. And it's just because I hadn't eaten anything all day, like, and it's happened to me before. Like I just forget to eat, and then and then it was gross. It was awful.
Well, I've had those moments where I thought I was going to either puke or shit before I got on stage, and I've always warned the MC. I've always said, listen, if something happens and I call your name and I run off, this is why it is, and I'll be right back. But I think every time I thought that was going to happen, whatever it was, it just sort of zipped up.
Yeah, it goes away. You start feeling
better.
I
didn't feel like it was that drastic though when I went. Like I would have said something, but I wasn't feeling that nauseous when I was going on stage.
Like you would have said to Sean, "Look, I need a few more minutes. Can you go first? I'm going to go to the bathroom."
Yeah.
Right.
It just came on so fast, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And this is how I know I'm getting like very old, because usually when a woman pukes, they're like, "Oh my god, could you be pregnant?" Everybody was like, do you think you have cancer? Like they thought I was like terminally ill. Yeah. There's no way this old broad could get pregnant, but she could get cancer. Yeah. She could definitely get cancer.
Is that
that was
what is that one of your biggest fears, of just to be on stage and you puke or you?
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like puking, first of all. I'm in a medical. Like when I puke, that's Kathleen has tried to suppress it for as long as possible. Like I'm not one of those people that's just like, let's get it over with. I really try not to puke, and then when it happens, it's not a good thing. That would be my nightmare.
I know that you're not a big fan of the Tosh Boyno sort of like, let's watch some puking clips. No. And so you're not a big fan of those. I think always my fear is either I get up on stage and my zipper's undone unintentionally, or I start pissing unintentionally. And it's like, it's one thing if you do either of those two things,
or both at the same time,
or both.
That'd be even more awkward.
Yeah, very possible. If you don't have a joke to go with it, you feel that's horrible. But then if you have something to go with it, and then people could be like, "Oh, this is planned," but it's never planned. So
have you ever witnessed a comic? Yeah. Have you ever witnessed a comic barf or like passed out? Like I know Karen O'Keefe passed out in Grand Prairie once. She was on stage and just like fainted.
Oh, really?
I remember that. That was like the only. I wasn't there, but that's the only thing I've ever. And then I've heard stories. I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been Alex Wood, who literally showed up at a show and he felt ill and he's like, I'm just going to bring a garbage can on stage, and he brought it up and he threw up into it during his. It just kept going.
Yeah, I think Karen just didn't have the rest of her 45. And she just decided to pass out. So.
There's a famous show from Toronto to Rivoli when Tom Green came and hosted, and it was like a crazy lineup. And Jason Rouse brought a bucket on stage and tried to force himself to puke into it. That was his bit.
Yeah.
And he never could do it, but he kept shoving his fingers down his throat trying to
Ew.
puke. And people were just really like, oh.
I did Glue Guy on that show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was on that show too with the sketch troupe that I'm not going to name because they never really included me. But anyways, so that was Jason's gig. Don't you remember? He kept on shoving his fingers down his throat trying to puke.
Right, and he drank some like weird
puke.
He drank some like castor oil or something.
Yeah,
like
beforehand.
That.
Yeah,
and he still didn't puke.
Yeah, it's so disappointing,
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I know that like Snow, the rapper Snow, he barfed on stage in Edmonton once. He was like on stage and he vomited all over the place.
Yeah, but it said that on the poster. Sorry.
I know Andy Dick. I know Andy Dick pissed in the hallway when it was a Yucks where the Bronson's Club is now. But I think he also maybe have passed out on stage. Now D.L. Hewley passed out on stage like 6 months ago in America because he had COVID.
Oh, it's COVID related.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
that's just the thing. Like I've performed very sick before. I've never like canceled on a show.
I know.
Ever.
Yeah.
I've never been that sick. Like most comics wouldn't. I think because we're also selfish. We're like, no, that's my stage time. Let me do my stage time.
I think I've canceled once only because I physically couldn't even get there. But like if I'm already in town, especially if I'm like in the hotel attached to the venue, I could have just on the last days of cancer and still get on. Like you just have that. I got to do the show.
Well, the only other show that I've ever canceled on was I found out that my mom died an hour before my second show at Heckler's in Victoria. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going to do the show. And Adam's like, no, you're not doing the show. Like, I think I was in shock.
Right.
And then I was like in tears. I go downstairs in tears and I just saw Aaron. I was like, I got to go because my mom's dead. And he's like, what? So, yeah, it was very.
Yeah, he wasn't like,
you
said that last time you were here.
Yeah, you used that excuse before.
Yeah, how many times is your mom going to die?
Yeah,
so you don't have to do a second show.
A late show. Now, Aaron just reported that in Victoria, I think in the next week or two, they're back to full numbers, which is, exciting for Victoria.
Yeah.
Well,
I've heard that that's starting to happen everywhere because even I booked a New Year's gig and they said that they're hoping by New Year's they're going to be able to be at full capacity.
Right.
Yeah, I went to go see
that's Alberta, so.
I went to go see the James Bond movie and they're at like full. There was still only like 8 people in the movie theater that would seat 300, but they're at supposedly full capacity, but I don't know really what that means. And then everyone was going ape shit because I guess the Leafs could play at full capacity at the Air Canada Centre.
Yeah.
But then Air Restaurants still couldn't open at full capacity either. So, it's one of those sort of some people can do this and other people can't do that sort of situation, but we'll see.
So
we were bracing for a full lockdown again in Alberta last week. Everyone thought it was going to happen again.
It still could, with the cold weather coming. There's still, the numbers are down overall in Canada, but you never know. There's still a lot of kind of anti-masker, anti-vax people, and that could keep it going.
I'm getting my flu shot on Thursday just to piss those people off.
Yeah,
I'm getting every vaccine.
Now, I wanted to ask before, because I don't want to go past 10 o'clock today. While you were getting married in your wedding, the Chappelle special dropped.
Yeah.
So before you guys give your opinion on it, I refuse to watch it
Why?
Because I refuse to even get involved in this argument. I learned from the last special. I'm like, you just can't win whether you're pro or con.
Yeah.
If you say you're pro, then everyone that's con thinks you're an asshole. And if you even see anything a little bit wrong with it, then you're all of a sudden you're cancel culture. So I refuse to watch it for that reason.
Well, I mean, okay, so I watch it with my girlfriend, and we sort of watched it, but I mean, Chappelle, and I thought he was kind of coasting for a lot of it. Like, I mean,
Right.
but he does have that sort of George Carlin sort of vibe now, where I'm like, I've solidified my reputation as a comedian.
Yeah.
People know who I am. People know what I can do. He's had 4 other specials. This is his last one. I thought he kind of, it was still funny, and he coasted, but I felt like he coasted his way through it. But he's also in that position where I don't think he feels like he needs to prove himself anymore.
Right.
And
well, he's definitely not hungry for that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's sort of like, but he's kind of gone to that George Carlin phase where it doesn't seem to matter to him how much like how many laughs he gets. It's more of a matter of just like, how many points can I prove in one set, and how much of my opinion can I get across, and people still be on board with it. So I mean, I enjoyed it, but also at the same time, he's also not looking to make any new fans either.
Right.
So it's like, that's why you get all these like New York Times or Vice or all these sort of what's that other Huffington Post people that come out and say, oh well, he's this and this and that, and he's homophobic, he's transphobic, this phobic, that phobic. But like, you guys aren't even fans of him in the first place.
Yeah.
He's not worried about you anymore. It's like, if you just got into George Carlin for his last couple of specials, you'd be like, who is this crazy old man lunatic screaming about the way things are? But I mean, but yeah.
I mean, that's the same. Your answer there really, to me, reminded me of the Ari Shaffir tweets after the basketball player died.
Yeah.
You know, like, these tweets aren't for you. If you're not a fan of him, you're not going to get it. So what's the point? You know, that's kind of what your point is.
Well, you should only worry about your fans, and then.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just saying, when you said that, I remembered our conversation about when the three of us talked about that, and that was pretty much what we all said. These tweets weren't for anyone but his fans.
Yeah,
and that's even more specific, because you have to go to, this is Netflix. This is something that everyone has in their house. They can turn on, so it's a little bit different. But I understand what you're saying.
But and also, I find when people see all these other people that are supposedly trying to cancel him, I find so many of the times that when people rail against cancel culture, they're always the people that don't say anything that controversial and are not in any fear of being canceled, but they're always speaking out against it. And I guess it is still good to speak out against cancel culture, of course, but it's just sort of like, there's a moment where you're just sort of like, what are you worried about? Like, Dave Chappelle's not worried about being canceled. He knows how big he is.
Well,
but then other people that are
cashed
sort of
a check. What does he care?
Exactly. But I'm just saying, it's just the people that are so worried about cancel culture aren't doing anything worthy of being canceled for anyways.
This is Anthony Jeselnik. That's right, Anthony Jeselnik. You're listening to Anything Goes with Darren Frost on XM Radio's Laugh Attack. That's right, Anthony Jeselnik.
Right. So it's just one of these, like, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathleen?
I mean, I didn't love it, but it was like, he made some very excellent points that I think people that are sitting in the middle, that aren't on the far left, that aren't on the far right, but are very, like, still trying to figure out how to go about understanding everything.
Right.
And everything. I think he was speaking to those people, because there are some things that, like, that people are just, you know, I don't quite fully understand yet, and I don't understand why everyone's so angry about it. I just feel like it's the left is trying to censor him, which is very hypocritical. Very hypocritical. Like, I get it, you don't like some of the things he said, but you can't tell them to take his special down because you don't like what he said. He wasn't inciting violence. And that's what a lot of people were saying. Well, he's making it unsafe for trans people again, but I don't think he was making it unsafe. he's a man that's like over 40 that doesn't understand all of this stuff still, and it is like confusing and frustrating for him because he still every single day is being like berated by the left for being transphobic, even after months and months and months. He was saying like, I get tweets on it all the time about it, I get stuff all the time about it. So he's like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. This is my last opinion. I'm not going to talk about this ever again. Let's get it out on the table. But like, I mean, he does make some points where like he says, like, Caitlyn Jenner got Woman of the Year 1 year after becoming a woman, never had a period. That's one of his jokes. That's like, but people will get in a lot of trouble for thinking that that's kind of like annoying or frustrating. So I don't know. I think it's so stupid to shut up any side, right or left or center. Like everyone should be able to speak about how they feel, and you're more than welcome to become offended by it, but don't rally to have something taken down. Because Hannah Gadsby went off on the Netflix guy about, I don't even know the full quote, but she was angry that it was on there, and I was just like, nobody was rallying to ask them to take your special down.
Well, the argument there, and I'm not a huge fan of what she does, but her argument there was when the Netflix CEO came out, he brought up her special, saying, "Look, we played this special." So he brought her into the argument.
It. Absolutely.
So what her point was, most of her point was, don't bring me into your fucking fight. Don't use me as the excuse on why you can get away with the other side, kind of thing. That was from what I read and looked into. And
but it's
I'm not
getting
saying that
away. It's like it's just they're giving a voice to a bunch of different opinions and voices. Like Netflix shouldn't have to only have ideals of the left side and nothing on the right side. I mean, they're pretty left leaning anyway. They have a lot of negative documentaries about the right, which is fine because the right is really fucked up too. But the far left is just getting to be too much. Like they're wanting stuff taken down. They're wanting people shut up. But I'm like, you're being so hypocritical because you're so much about free speech and being who you are and everybody accepting you for the way you are, unless you don't agree with what somebody is saying or with what somebody's doing, which seems very hypocritical to me. But I don't know.
I also don't think that like when people say, oh, Dave Chappelle's making it less safe for trans people, I think most of his fans that are laughing at his jokes are not going to take to arms and like start marching out on the streets and start attacking trans people. I think most of his fans are smart enough to go like, oh, these are jokes, these are his opinions. You either accept them or you're on board with them or you're not. But I mean, they're just. I think it's a.
And should a comedian be held because the dumbness of some of his fans may do that? If the majority, like you said, I agree with you. The majority of them would be smart enough to know that these are jokes, and there might be a small population that aren't smart enough. But there is that population that is that dumb to do these things? Is that the comedian's fault?
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. That's
not the comedian's fault. It's what they're listening to. It's what they're reading. If somebody didn't watch that special and think, I'm going to go and beat the shit out of a trans person. Nobody.
Right.
It's just he didn't even say anything like that, but he did say some things that are sort of like frat house funny about trans people and about a guy with a vagina, like stuff like that, which is like that's not like hilarious to everybody, and I can understand why people can say that's getting into bullying territory, but also I just feel like everybody needs to grow a thicker fucking skin because everybody wants to be accepted for however they are, but none of us are nobody's all the same, right? So there are going to be people that aren't going to like the way that I look or the way that I do things, and I just have to accept that, right? Like that nobody's going to float through life and everything's going to be perfect and you're never going to have a bad day and somebody's never going to hurt your feelings. It's just not realistic, and everybody's getting so like, I have to be protected at all times. It's not possible to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that, I mean, people should, I mean, I almost welcome when there is a time when people go back to being like, oh, these are just dumb comedians. Who cares what they say? But it's also not their fault that they're so popular that like a Dave Chappelle is held as this high standard that, or Joe Rogan is held to this high standard where people are sort of like, yeah, I mean, if you're literally getting your information from Joe Rogan, who's like, you know, like a second-rate comic and a MMA commentator, and who has a very popular podcast, if you're getting all your information from him, then you're the dummy, you know. But no one else, no one wants to say I'm the dummy for getting my shit from him. But you know,
there's
like,
also to be said, you know, like this is getting people talking, and they are the people in the trans community are standing up and saying why this is wrong. And I've always said, if you're a comic and you're going after a certain group and that group doesn't like what you're doing, they have the right to stand up and say, we don't agree with this. This is wrong, what you're saying. I have a problem with the people outside that group who are just kind of like, you know, screaming and don't have that experience.
Well, it's oh yeah, sorry. I
Go
didn't
ahead.
interrupt. No, I was.
No, I'm just saying.
Like people that are allies that are kind of getting mad.
Yes. You know, they're more angry sometimes than the actual group. And you know, if it's the actual group is upset, here's your chance. And I know they don't need Dave Chappelle to do this for them to then, you know, validate themselves. But here is a time where you can say, this isn't cool anymore. This is affecting us this way. And from this point on, hopefully this doesn't happen again. And so there is that teachable moment that I hope that, look, I used to say a lot of shit that I'm not proud of, you know, and unfortunately I have a lot of things on some of my specials where I kind of go, ooh, did I really say that? But, you know, I've kind of grown from that.
Exactly.
And hopefully everybody else will too. But people forget intent and they think everything has to land perfectly every single fucking time. And it doesn't.
Well, I guarantee you some of those jokes, he literally did them for the first time on that special. Like he's used to doing 7-hour sets sometimes. He just rambles on and just goes on. Like nothing is going to be perfect. Not every and if you agree with everything that a comedian says, that's like that comedian's not really doing a good job of making you think about that, especially if that's their kind of comedy.
Yeah.
Like you can't agree with everything.
Well, I mean, like I said before on this show, it's sort of like comedians don't say things because they're right. They say things because they think that they're funny. So it's sort of like, does Dave Chappelle does he think that everything that he says is right? Or is he saying them because that they're funny? Because I've said things that I don't necessarily morally agree with, but if there's a joke in there, I'll say it. I guess one of my issues is when people try to make a name for themselves by canceling someone else.
Yes.
And they're sort of overly virtue signaling to the rest of the world by like, look what I did. I canceled, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's sort of like the guy that called out, or that the guy that dug through all those podcasts and found the one clip of Shane Gillis saying something. He tried to make a name for himself because I think he's a wannabe comic as well. His name's Simon something or something Simon. But like he tried to make a name for himself by canceling someone else. And that's just something I just don't think that comics should do, you know?
No. And I've never, like, I mean, part of the reason comics are around and part of the reason why comics do comedy is to be able to express themselves, and maybe they'll say something wrong and it's not the right thing to say, but everybody, you know, then they won't learn about that kind of thing. Like you said, like you'll never grow if you can't express what you're really feeling. Like if you're really feeling something, and then someone sits you down or just explains to you and that's the other thing, in a calm and rational way, instead of like screaming at people like you're disgusting, you're this, you're transphobic, you're this. If you sit down and say, this is why it hurts us so much, and like that's how you get through to people. And you're right, people need to be able to talk about stuff so that dialogue happens. But everybody's so angry nowadays and so upset.
I don't think that's going to change for a long time. And I mean,
everyone's
that's
in
an
an echo chamber.
It's really sad, but I just don't think it's going to change. And I worry about, I hate to say it, the kids of tomorrow, because I'm kind of glad I was born when I was, and I saw a difference. And now the way things are going, I don't have a lot of hope for it.
Well,
yeah, it's weird. It's a weird world.
Yeah, I think
it's just a snake eating its own tail over and over again.
I think as long as we live in a world where someone, you know, with one Twitter handle or address can, like, where everyone has a voice and someone can blow up their voice to be bigger than it is or it should be, then I think that we'll always have these moments of people calling out other people, and without any backing behind it or any real sort of controversy and shit like that. So,
and just because you surround yourself by people that agree with you and tell you that you're right, it does mean you're right.
yeah.
No. But that's what most people do. They especially on social media, like, and like if you look at TikTok does it for you. Like if you're a right wing and you like this, they'll show you all those videos. If you are against homophobia and transphobia, they'll show you all those videos. If you're about body positivity, they'll show you all those videos. You're not going to see stuff you don't want to see. And so social media has now become this algorithm where you can surround yourself by all these people who agree with you, and then you feel like you're in the majority, but you don't really ever know if you're in the majority because you really don't know what everyone else thinks because you never get to see that side.
Well, what's also funny is that, I don't know about I don't know the TikTok world, but I know on Facebook, and they just got into a bunch of shit for this, is that the negative press or the negative comments and you'll start getting circulated more of the negative side of things more than the positive side of things. So it's just funny to me that there's like do either of you know who the Young Turks are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, but there's groups like the Young Turks, which is on the left, and then there's the Daily Wire that is on the right.
Right.
And they haven't really spoken up about how Facebook is sort of, their algorithms are going towards the negativity side and the more things that people hate, because I think that both of those sort of platforms
benefit from it.
But yeah, they benefit from them. They feed off of it. It's sort of like, it's sort of like the Daily Wire will be pro-Trump and the Young Turks will be anti-Trump, and they know that their audiences will feed more off of the negative side of things than the positive side of things. And it just shows how it's sort of like people are both working to their own better interests, and rather than like what is actually good for the planet.
Yeah, the human race isn't headed towards a better place. It's actually headed in a very bad direction. Right. I think everybody's just getting so insulated.
And that's why Shatner went to space, man. That's why.